Pig's blood. Ever heard of it? Ever seen it? Ever felt it? No? That's alright. It's what sets me apart. I was on vacation with my family last week, and something that a lot of people do when they go on vacation is they bring a novel. For some, it's the only time they read all year. It's the peak of our American existence. Sitting by the pool, sweat dripping on the pages, skin cancer building a community behind your ears, children screaming from your 6 and 12, annoying coworkers warning you about layoffs. I love this life. But this vacation was the first time I ever engaged in this great tradition. For all the talk of painting and poetry and art I do, I'm not a reader, certainly not of novels. Honestly, I think the reason I got into poetry is because I wanted to feel like a reader without having to read all that much. Whenever I read through a collection, and I still do this today, if I ever came across a poem that was more than 3 pages, I would just kind of skim it. And if I don't have the patience for a 3-page poem, how do you expect me to read 700 pages about a whale who's getting hunted down for procreating out of wedlock? I'll think about it. I hated reading before I was old enough to understand the ramifications of hate. I'd often air my grievances with words to my dad, and he would always tell me that he was the same way as a kid, but once he became an adult, he learned to love reading. The Matrix got to him. In 1st grade, my teacher selected me and one other girl who's always been taller than me as advanced readers. I was flattered. Mrs. Cody, I didn't realize you thought so highly of me. And then she handed me something. It was extra reading assignments. Talk about classic manipulation. She love-bombed me so I would feel good about myself and her, but she didn't do it because she actually loved me. She wanted something from me. She gave us a 3rd grade level novel and a bunch of worksheets attached to each chapter. But here's something you might not know about me. I'm no domesticated pig. I'm not gonna sit around and take orders from a farmer who's just gonna butcher me in a couple months. Okay, I'm a wild swine. I'm not gonna let a farmer get her hands on my free time. I didn't open the book. And I took all those worksheets and I shoved them in the back of my desk. And you know what my consequence was? Nothing. You can't punish a hog. Write that down. I think Mrs. Cody immediately forgot about these assignments, or she didn't care about my lack of care. I did all of the real homework. These weren't even for a grade. I don't know why she thought she could get me to do something when there was nothing in it for me. And don't say that knowledge is what's in it for me, please. You're so ignorant. I think she wanted to inspire a love of reading within me, but it did the exact opposite. When I think back on my reading journey, this feels like the moment I rejected it. If I was making this video a year ago, I probably would try to break down baby Peyton's psyche. I would think back to other moments when my love of reading was squandered by teachers or the system. But reading's just boring. I mean, have you scrolled Instagram Reels? Euphoric. Well, back then I was addicted to Pinterest. That was like my thing. In my later elementary years, I would always pick up a Diary of the Wimpy Kid book from the library. I was addicted to these books. They were easy to read and filled with all those steamy rally scenes. But I didn't like reading. I liked Greg Heffley and I loved Rally. In high school, my sister gave me this horror book series that I can't remember the name of, and I loved it. I read the whole series, but once I was done, I just went back to playing video games. There are a couple other examples, but essentially, it never felt like I liked reading. It just felt like I liked a book. If I made more of an effort to read, I definitely would have liked it. I got into writing when I was stuck home during COVID. I was never remotely interested in writing novels, but I would write humor essays, poetry, commentary, YouTube videos. I had heard that in order to be a good writer, you have to be a reader, and that bummed me out. But I tried to take that advice to heart. I would read humor essays and poetry, and my favorite thing to do was to watch like comedy specials, but instead of just turning my brain off, I would engage with them and try to learn from them. But again, during that time, I never touched a book. Ever since I started writing, I've always wished that I was a reader. And I could just start reading. I'll read a nonfiction book a year. But a couple months ago, my friend gave me this collection of Stephen King books, and it was a nice gesture. I really appreciate it. And what am I gonna do, receive all of these books and then never touch them? Yeah, that's what I'd been doing. He gave me 7 books, and I'd like to read all of them at some point. Not it. I've seen the movie, and this is bigger than the Bible. I began reading Carrie on the flight, and I finished it a couple days after I got back from vacation. I read 30 pages a day, and I liked it. I haven't read enough books to tell you what makes this good or bad. I just know it took me to the place where I had to flip to the next page. It was like out of body, I just did. And that feeling reminded me a lot of Twitter. I think I experienced some similar feelings with art and social media. Feelings like distraction or focus or curiosity. I feel that when I'm online and when I'm painting or reading. But the big difference is when I'm done with painting, I feel good about myself and maybe even the world. Art is much more satisfying than Facebook. I just think sometimes it feels like I'm just trying to tickle my brain until the day is over, because I have no one to tickle me at night. When I was in college taking creative writing classes, we would always be given these different craft books. Great books, written by smart people, and I hated them. Well, really, I just wouldn't read them. They were boring. I should read this. I'd be a better artist for it, but I do this stuff for fun, and this way of learning isn't fun. Reading about poetry, I'd rather read poetry, right? I'm not alone in this. This is not a unique feeling. I'd much rather read a book or watch a comedy special and take notes and make my own observations. I'm not saying it's a more efficient way of learning. It's just how I like to do things. I didn't take notes while reading Carrie. I did do that with a short little Bob Hope book I read a couple months ago. This really was just something I wanted to do for fun. But I still learned a few things about writing. I'm not gonna explain this very popular book to you. If you're looking for a spooky story with a happy ending, I would definitely recommend it. But I am going to share 3 things I observed and that I would like to maybe apply in my own art. My biggest takeaway is that it can be so cool and powerful when you slowly peel back information. It really keeps things interesting and exciting. And that's something I maybe want to apply to my poetry or YouTube videos. Mrs. Cody's in jail for killing the other first grade teacher. That'd be awesome if it was true. I thought the book did a good job with character motivation, specifically with Sue. Her motivations are very complex and even contradictory at times, which feels so human. She's very aware that even if she's trying to do a good thing, she's being selfish at the same time. She knows that. And I think when I compare that to maybe, you know, just some of the evil people in the story, whose motivations just seem like they're evil people, it's much more compelling. I write a lot of poetry that is character or narrative driven, so I'm really interested in conveying those complex emotions. And finally, the world building was really good. Not because he was able to describe the town in a way I could visualize, he did that, and not even because it explains how Carrie's telepathy works. It's because all of these quirky side characters come together to make this town feel both relatable and unique. I think I've often thought of world building as describing the architecture of the town, but it's the people in the town. That's what really matters. It's not like I haven't thought of any of these things. It's just reading this book gave me a fresh example. Thanks for watching. Maybe I'll read another novel someday. Who knows? If you want to support me, I just put out a poetry collection, and you can find me on Substack. I put out 1 or 2 free articles a month. They're funny, I think.